More natural conversation sounds better, anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined by Mac Mills, and so yeah, how did you get the name Mac Mills?
So like I was just saying to you before we started recording, is like it was the original name I had on this page because I had it since 2012. So I created this
Yeah,
account like basically when Instagram started. Because when did Instagram start? Like 2011, 2010 ish. It's somewhere
yeah,
around there because I remember Instagram when it was still like people posting just photos with filters and there was no videos and no collaborations or man do I sound like an old person when I'm saying it like this, but
no, I think I remember that. I mean, I'm
it was
like
it was a
32
completely
now.
different app. Like there wasn't even really like I mean, I'm sure there was like war stuff on here and politics, but it was mostly like photographers, a lot
Yeah,
of or like photographers posting like photogenic photos of like scenery or landscapes or with the filter aspects. That was like kind of the big thing that Instagram had was like, oh, you can apply these filters through this app that like at the time Facebook didn't have for your photos, or well,
yeah.
MySpace wasn't really a thing anymore. But now you have videos on here. Now you have the collaborations. I mean, it's a completely different app than what it was 10 years ago. So the name I just had originally for that, and it was just an old
Yeah,
username, like I said, kind of nickname I went along with, and it just comes from an old song. Uh, I don't want to say the
yeah.
name of the song. Got a bad word in it. I don't want to get us in trouble.
Okay. Fair,
But
fair.
it's the I looked it up one day. I don't believe it. I feel like it's like a Mandela effect because I looked up what the word on Google Lyrics says, and it's not what I remember hearing. And then when I listened to the song, I'm like, no, he's saying this. But it's supposed to be like Mac 10s or Mac 11s, like a plural enunciation of that.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay, that makes
but
sense.
as time went on, I just kind of decided I'm like, like I was just saying before, this doesn't really jive with the context of my page. So I wanted to change it to something more appropriate for it. I kept the name under the actual name for it because I know
Yeah,
Instagram doesn't like it when you change stuff. Plus, like, it makes it harder for followers to find you if you like completely change everything.
yeah.
So I kind of left it like that. So it's basically the old story behind it. And
Because
then
I
here
feel
we
like
are.
someone told me that you started as a music page, right?
Mm-hmm. Music and art page. Yeah, I used to be like a graffiti artist a long time ago, so I'd share like music, lyrics, graffiti art. I had like a big shoe collection a long time ago. I'd share like photos of that, so I was kind of like into the shoe community, if you want to call it that way, or one way or another. But
I
I was
I
always
only
into hip
just learnt this is a thing. Like,
the shoe community.
yeah, I don't know if that's made it to New Zealand. I'll be honest, mate. Yeah, I like people collecting shoes and like shoe conventions. I legitimately had no idea this was a thing until like
Oh yeah, like
probably a
sneakerheads
few
and
months
stuff.
ago.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, now I kind of look at it because I'm older. Because I was more into it in my like teens and early 20s. Now I'm just
yeah,
like, it's a little cringy. And then
yeah,
plus,
yeah,
the style to me seems a bit outdated now. Because I'm like, okay, these were sneakers and shoes, and this whole kind of atmosphere was like cool like 10 years ago. But now I'm like, why isn't it updated? Where it's still like kind of the same,
is this still the
you
same?
know. The aesthetic is kind of, yeah, like you go buy like $150, $300 pair of Nikes or Jordans or something or whatever, then you match it with your shirt and your pants and your hat or whatever, blah blah blah. You go do all that nonsense, and it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of like 2000ish to me now. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, owning like 30 to 40 pairs of sneakers and stuff just doesn't seem feasible anymore. So I sold like my whole collection years ago.
Did you make money?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I
That's so funny.
I mean, everything I would buy normally I would get at a discount price, and then I'd be able to sell it for more because I would get it on
Yeah,
sale or something. So I would
that
just
makes
sell it at
sense.
the average value. But if I went to a store and I'd see it on sale, I'm like, oh, I'm going to grab that, and then like 6 months later, sell it for regular price because it's still the same value on the sneaker. They don't know I
Yeah,
bought it on sale, so
yeah, yeah. That makes sense, especially if you sell it online, right?
But yeah, from there, I just kind of I was always into like military stuff. So like a lot of these pages that I like work with now on here, I had been following, and
Yeah.
then when the war started, I just started sharing a lot about it, and then some of the other guys noticed, started talking to me, and then it kind of just snowballed effect into where we are today. You know, I'm neck
And you're
deep in
fully in the
this.
thick of it now.
Yeah, literally. Didn't ask
Yeah.
for it, but here I am.
What greatness thrust upon you and all that.
I don't know if I call it greatness, but it's definitely neck deep in it. If you told me like 3 years ago at the beginning of the invasion, you'd be like, "Oh, you'd be really involved in this and knowing all these people and blase blase," and it's like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, and like, yeah, now, like I said, here I am now, apparently
Staying up
trying to
till
show
5 a.m. watching
it, yeah,
Telegram.
scrolling through Telegram like a mindless zombie.
Did you find anything interesting?
Oh well, I found the some of the videos last night that I sent over of the exercises the Chinese and the Russians are
Yeah.
doing. That's pretty curious to see all their old equipment out there flying around still.
Yeah. There seems to be a lot of that, a lot of rolling out the old stuff. But then, like,
I, I
are
mean,
they just trying to?
most of it all in the footage was Russian equipment, so I was kind of a little. I didn't really look at any of the Chinese telegrams. I'm sure they posted all their stuff that was out there too. But yeah, it's kind of amazing. Like I was looking at their anti-aircraft, so whatever it is, the ish. Well, I don't know how to say it off the top of my head. I'd have to look at it, but those things were commissioned in 1967. I'm like, holy crap, those things are still flying. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of pays testament to how well it must have been built at the time. But then also, it probably shouldn't still be in service.
I mean, I will give this to the Russians. They can make old shit last for a long time. Like
Yeah,
whatever kind of
isn't it?
equipment they're very resourceful at managing like stuff for a long time. So I don't know.
Isn't it make
But
it simple and make it cheap or some shit? Make it
it
last?
kind of like I mean, I think the AK-47 moniker really goes well with their whole like premise with design on their vehicles, their aircraft. It's like simplicity kind of over like, advancement, if that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
if it's like the old, like if it's not broke, why fix it kind of thing, you know what I mean? So I think they really kind of fall along those lines.
Yeah, I suppose that also helps with mass production. And when your theory is swarming, where your military strategy is swarming rather than precision, making things
Yeah,
in mass generally
yeah,
helps.
exactly. Yeah, plus like in Soviet times too, you would think like if they're producing these things in these massive factories, it's not always like skilled or trained workers working on all this stuff. So
Yeah,
probably the
true.
simpler the design, the easier for it is to be manufactured. So
Yeah,
because then you
definitely.
don't have to
Yeah,
have a
because
whole
then
boatload of. Oh, go ahead.
you could repurpose factories like
Right,
faster. You don't need like specialized cutting equipment or specialized skilled workers to cut certain
right. You don't
parts.
need a boatload of specialists designing something
Yeah,
like, for instance, like go to fucking Pratt and Whitney down the road for me, and that entire goddamn place is filled with fucking engineers. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's
You
not
have spent
somebody in a
years
Lego
at uni
factory.
and
Right, yeah. It's not like they're making
yeah,
Lego sets or something in there. It's like, no, you need a little bit up there in the noggin to be in there, you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
So,
No, that does make sense. I
you can't
mean,
like I said, you can't knock them for it cuz it works. So, it's like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So,
yeah, I suppose it fits their doctrine, right? They have the people, they have the numbers, they have the mass. It's what they've always relied on. So
yeah, it's
sticking
like
to
their
it.
idea with the mass wave attacks, mass armor attacks, just keep sending them in until it works. It's like it's trying to like
Yeah,
kick
yeah.
down a locked door. Just when the one guy gets tired trying to kick down the locked door, just bring up the next guy and he'll start kicking on the locked door until the locked door is kicked
Eventually the
open. We'll just
rock
keep
breaks.
throwing. Yeah, we'll just keep throwing bodies at it until it breaks.
Yeah, absolutely.
A
Absolutely.
twisted mechanism of their war strategy. I sure wouldn't want to be a part of it, but
No,
it
you
has
don't want to
worked for
be.
them in the past.
Yeah, you just don't want to
Had
be soldier number 8 in the
Yeah.
line.
I mean, if you really want to talk about feeling like a fucking stormtrooper from the Empire, like real cannon fire,
Yeah,
like literally just a number on a sheet, like that's really what it is like over there for them. Like, oh yeah, next platoon, go ahead, over the top. Like, oh, they didn't make it.
scary
All
to
right,
think
you
about.
guys go next.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about doing that in up against modern weaponry, right? Because like back in the day when machine guns would overheat faster, they would run out of ammo. Like I suppose MG40s were still pretty effective, but like eventually their barrels would get hot and melt. So like wave attacks were a bit more effective. But now up against like modern machine guns where you can change the like barrels out, there's teams that are trained to like keep them firing.
I mean,
Brutal.
I was when I was looking at the new thing that they just implemented in the last couple of weeks, the Dragon drones. I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
some horrifying. That's some horrifying stuff. Like, imagine like you're already worrying about one of those things flying into you and blowing you up. Now you got to worry about one flying over you and dousing you with thermite and just
Just
like
pissing fire on you.
incinerating you alive. Like,
Yeah. Have you seen the aftermath footages of like in the tree lines?
oh yeah,
It's just everything's burnt
it's just
or
cooked.
crisp. Yeah.
I mean, it's ingenious. I'll say that. As far as them,
Yeah.
whoever decided to come up with that, I'm like, I'm surprised I didn't think of that beforehand. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole like the development of FPV drones and like munition dropping drones. It's like as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, of course, that makes complete sense. Like,
Yeah.
how did we not think about this before? We take a drone, we strap a bomb, and we just hoof it at the enemy. But someone had to come up with the idea. Someone had to do it first.
And a drone is far cheaper to blow up and lose than it is a soldier. You know, you don't got to train
Yeah,
a drone. I mean, and drones are, you know, as far as military equipment, they're cheap as hell. It's like
yeah.
buying
Those
drones
small,
probably
like
cheaper
off
than
the
buying
shelf
a
ones.
rifle. You know,
Yeah, absolutely. Like so cost effective. Like it's just crazy to think about.
I mean,
Um,
the one of the guys I've been helping with on here for the last couple of years, I've helped him, and I was just talking the other day. He's Ukrainian, but he lives in Germany. Uh, we've been able to raise up to, I think he was saying now the other day, like $500,000 in the last 3 years for drones. So
yeah,
he's like constantly mailing drones out, and I mean like not
just
like one. He'll send me pictures of inside of his apartment, and it's like a whole effing wall that's just drones. He's like, I got to
yeah,
mail these by tomorrow, and I'm like, oh my god, you know, like this is insane. You know, the amount that like he can just do just shows
yeah,
you like how many of these things they go through constantly, just on one side. Not even counting how many of the Russians you. So these things are probably buzzing around more than there are people out there at this point. You know.
makes you wonder what the future of warfare is going to look like. Like
I mean,
people just sitting in bunkers
I
and
saw a
robots fighting
video
in between.
yesterday. The video's old. I guess it came out in April, but it's this company called Thermoflame or Thermoflamer, and they have like one of those robotic dogs you can buy, you know, but
Yeah,
there's an attachment that you can have for it that's basically like one of those propane gasoline flamethrowers,
yeah,
and it attaches to the top of this dog, and you can and it's only like 10 grand. Apparently
yeah.
it's completely legal in like all states besides like California and Alaska or something like that. um
Of
And I'm
course.
thinking, like, okay, so who's the idiot that's going to figure out how to attach a drone to that thing, fly it
Yeah, yeah,
over to a trench, and just drop it into a trench, and now you got this robotic dog just flamethrowing everything? Like, I can see it happening. It's only a matter of time. You know,
yeah.
they're going to do stuff like this soon.
That's yeah. Of course, you just fucking move the robot and just. It's kind of like what was that video game where you like drop shit people in? You're just doing that with not people.
Battlefield 2020 or whatever, that old one.
I
The
don't know.
old,
It was like they would like drop ship soldiers in, basically, like Halo style, where they come in pods, right?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's exactly like that, right? You're just dropping in a robot, and he's just going fucking ham. Because what you
yeah.
flamethrower, you put a machine gun on that bad boy.
and
Just
then maybe like a self-detonating charge on it when it's out, like
yeah, when it's fucking done, it's just
self-destruct,
like okay, I'm done it.
it just blows itself up once it's done. Like, I mean, we're definitely walking into like the Terminator style,
Yeah,
real robot on robot warfare now.
big time. We're just happily waltzing into that reality.
Hmm.
All right.
And it's all being fought on a battlefield that looks like World War One. Isn't it strange?
Yeah. Yep.
Like
I
the
mean,
aesthetic of it, like it's
just
almost like romantically grim because like it's the same thing with World War One. The weaponry was so far beyond the tactics, kind of just like how it is now. Like the weapons are advancing outside of the tactics that are being used, and people are
yeah.
trying to catch up with it. And it's like I don't know, like 'cause even now the guys are running around. I was saying like a year or two ago, I'm like, just wait, they're gonna start giving individual soldiers like some sort of sensor or something for them for all these drones flying around, and now they have them. What were they?
Yeah.
EW something?
Those little ones, I think I've seen them.
Little
They're
boxes
like,
that beep when you're like the
yeah,
oh fuck sound, like da 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 da, and you're like oh yeah oh yep I'm fucked.
I
Like
gotta fucking hide.
yeah
Oh, did you see? I don't know who shared it. The video of the Russian like laying in, it wasn't a trench. He was like laying in a slit in the ground, and you could just hear the zing, zing fly of the drone flying around him. Oh, that is going to be the sound of nightmares for so many people.
I mean, can you imagine the PTSD that's going to be with all that?
Yeah, that sound is going to haunt people for years.
Because like I heard like especially at the beginning when this all started, when you had civilians and like younger kids like leaving the country that were in areas of being bombarded or struck by like the drones or the missiles or whatever, they get all fucked up and freaked out when they hear like fireworks and shit. So
Yeah,
I'm just like, oh yeah, you're gonna freak the fuck out when you start hearing like your fucking
yeah,
neighbor's gonna have a weed whacker out there one morning, and you're gonna think it's a fucking Shaheed flying in or something. Like,
yeah. Or you're just at the beach and someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go fly a drone around to take some cool photos,"
yeah, and you
and
just
you're
look up and
like,
you think like, oh god, I gotta run. Like, oh
"Yeah, yeah."
shit,
Your instant reaction is time to go because fuck
yep,
that.
yep, that thing has got a grenade. It's gonna drop it on me.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was saying to someone last night. I remember when I was in the military and ISIS were first developing the tactic of dropping bomblets and how they were using like half cocked like M203 rounds. So they would like take ones that had not detonated in the ground. Super dangerous. Like these things are basically ready to blow up at a
Go off.
moment's notice. And they would
Hmm.
like precariously rig them under a little drone, like an old school DJI, and then they would go and drop them on stuff. I remember people seeing that and being like, oh, here we go. Like, this is the, and then to see it where it's come to now is crazy. And then you're
Oh
also
yeah.
seeing it being like spread around. Like, I think I shared a video a few days ago of a massive drone landing on the roof of a prison in Ecuador and like blowing the whole roof off. Like,
Hmm.
this tactic is just going to spread so far. Drones are just going to become like, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets to the point where they just don't let random people buy drones because they're just seen as like a weapon at this point,
I
which would be
could
kind
see
of
some.
sad.
Yeah, I could definitely see like a needed like a licensing for it. Yeah, there's definitely going to be
Yeah,
probably some restrictions going on because even here in the states, like you can't just like fly them anywhere already
yeah,
because of like like flights and stuff like that and air traffic rules and whatnot. But I could easily seeing it happening that way,
yeah.
because like I was just saying, you could go buy that robot dog for 10 grand and I could literally be walking that thing around my yard, burning my fucking yard with it right now. Like, totally legal. Like,
I do think that's probably also an American thing. You guys have a fascination with legal weapons, right?
yeah. Well, it's also it's not technically a flamethrower. It's like one of like I said those gasoline propane ones, so they only shoot so
Yeah,
far. It's not like
yeah.
a real flamethrower, but the idea that I could just acquire that for the hell of it, just like,
You
oh
could
yeah,
just go over the counter. Thanks for coming. Never
I
see
mean,
that person again.
I thought too when I was looking at the price of it yesterday. I was like, oh, 10 grand for the flamethrower. I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of. And then it's like, no, you get the robot dog too. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like you can
Okay.
get the whole thing for under 10 grand. I think it was like 9,000 and like 700 something odd dollars.
Oh, they've done you a
Flat.
deal there.
Yeah, I'm like, wow. Like I didn't think those things were that cheap. Like, not that I would want to buy one right now, but the availability of it's there. So,
Yeah, yeah.
like I said, it's only a matter
Oh,
of
yeah.
time before they start figuring out how to drop those things into trenches and stuff via like another drone or something, and then it's gonna get really weird because
Yeah, that's
you're gonna be having dudes fighting like whole assaults that are just robots. Like,
yeah,
how do you defend against that more mentally, moral, like your morale? It's
yeah.
like,
You just hear the because not just one. You get like 3 or 4 big drones just like "Mwah," over top of your trench. They drop in 3 or 4 fighting robots into your trench line. Like
yeah, that's what I mean. Like at that point, do you even bother fighting back because you're not even fighting a human? There's no
yeah, you're not
like
killing them. Doesn't even
they'll just
remove
send
an
another
enemy.
one.
Yeah, they just do it again.
Yeah,
But then, like, at what point you have to stop, right? You have to. You can't just lose. You can't withdraw. I don't know. That's just
yeah.
if
It's
someone
it's
hasn't.
we're walking into a really scary time when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like the average infantryman is going to be fighting stuff that like I don't know. It's like I said, we're probably pretty close to the robot on robot warfare soon. We're already seeing it with the drones in the air. They're already
Yeah,
fighting each other.
smashing into each other.
Yeah,
I
I
do
knew
like
that
those
was.
videos. They crack me up.
Oh yeah, it's ingenious. Like that was something I
Yeah,
said a couple years ago too. I was like, I actually brought up the idea to someone when they first started using all these drones in the air. I'm like, I guarantee you, one of the first things they're going to start doing to be in use for anti-drone warfare is using smaller drones that are fat, like those racing ones,
yeah,
to crash into other ones.
yeah.
And that's what they're doing with them now. And I'm like,
Just
I don't know. I'm not saying I'm
like
predicting shit. I'm just like
the
seeing one
development
problem.
is.
Like, oh, how do you solve that? And it's like, oh, a couple months later, they figure it out and do that exact same thing. And I'm like, oh, all right. So
Yeah, seeing them also like the naval drones. That was watching like 3 or 4 of those pump into the side of a naval ship is incredible. Like it's like just
just
insane to see. Like
you
how
just
they just can't stop
strapped
it.
a ski-doo with a bunch of explosives and made it into a
Yeah,
giant RC boat and then just
stuff
drive it
it
into
into
the
it.
multi-billion-dollar ship, like
And then just sinks to the bottom of the sea, and you're
bottom of the
like,
sea. And you're like, huh, that's all it took. Really? That was a little
yeah,
too easy. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Like it's too cost effective. It's too simple to do. To like suddenly you've got your massive navy, and you're like, wow, I can't actually fucking use it because if I take it out of the harbor, someone just rams it with a bunch of dinghies and it's gone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm their navy in the Black Sea is basically just missile launching platforms at this point. They're not really
Yeah,
being utilized as like a actual naval force. They're just
yeah,
fancy missile launching platforms that just float in the ocean right now. And I don't know.
and
I don't
then
really see the cost effectiveness of that. Like
no, I
for
think it's probably more utility, right? You have a bunch
well,
of missiles that are designed to be shot from naval ships, so you're like, wow, fuck it. I guess we better shoot them.
well, they also, like I said, you said they've lost so many ships as well, just due to like getting struck by a missile or a drone driving to the side of it. And it's like, how many more of those are you gonna lose before you could just I don't know. I'd put like a fucking barge out there with some some like HIMARS or fucking grads on
Yeah,
it or something. Like if that sinks, whatever. I don't give a fuck. It's a fucking some cheap ass equipment, but a whole ship with all
yeah,
those
yeah.
crew members just down under, like that is
It's
all.
insane.
You know.
Like, oh, warfare. Eh? What a time!
And we
What a
are
time to
here
be
now.
alive.
We're here now 3 years later, and still nothing seems to be changing.
Just a couple of lines on a map, moving backwards and forwards, and
Pretty
in a
much.
way.
I mean, one's getting pushed back now, and then the other one's getting pushed in, and it's. I mean, it's kind of like one's going one way, and then the other one's going the other way, and they're kind of equaling out at the moment right now.
Yeah, I suppose it's priority of effort, right? Russia had to move all their troops around to Kursk, and then they're suddenly making ground there again. And
It's so baffling because like now you're here. I'm reading like stories of like Russian channels saying like them interviewing civilians. They're like, oh, they were bombing us and they were killed, and I'm like, this is so delusional. Like, you guys could just go home. Like, your country will still be the largest in the world.
yeah,
I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but they are the largest effing country in the world. They don't need any more land. They could stop and go home. They could
at
bite
any
their
point,
tongue and just be like, you know what, we fucked up, and this is all done and said with. I don't know, because you hear a lot of the opposite side when people are talking about Ukraine when it's like, oh, there's a proxy war, oh, we're wasting money, this and that. And it's like, well, give me the reason why Russia is there.
yeah, yeah,
Not you,
yeah,
but like, you never hear anyone really talk about, like, what is it? The Nazi thing? That's been out the window for over a year, like, couple years now. That was bullshit to begin with. So what are
yeah,
they
yeah.
there for? What is this whole protecting Russian speakers? I never heard a fucking other country in the world do something like imagine if the UK or America went somewhere and we're like, we're protecting English speakers. You know how batshit insane that sounds to somebody? Like, if
Yeah,
that was like
absolutely.
our foreign policy or a part of our foreign policy, wouldn't that be colonialism? I
Maybe.
mean, it sounds like it to me.
So Turkey also has it written into their constitution that they can go to war to protect. I think it's like ethnic Turks, and that's I think part of how they justify their incursions into northern Syria. So similar, like
I mean, it's one thing to say an ethnic group, but just to base it off language alone just sounds really
yeah. Well, I
wonky to
think
me. Like,
they bring it together, right? Like Russia would claim that the Russian speakers are ethnically Russian as well. So
they
like,
they they will tend to do that afterwards. But like, imagine if that worked in like South America or Central America. Like,
yeah,
Mexico is going to be like, all right, we're going to invade the southern part of the central, tip of South, like Ecuador, Panama, and like they're all Spanish speaking. We got to protect all the Spanish speaking. Like, it just sounds
what if Spain did?
right.
What if
Or like, what if
Spain
Spain?
Spain and
We're going to go
Portugal
all
were
the way
like,
back. Yeah, we're gonna go to the Dominican Republic and Cuba and freaking Venezuela and
yeah,
Colombia. We're gonna save all the Spanish speaking people. It just sounds so
yeah.
bizarre. Like, I don't know. It's like, for just use of language, it's just a really weird way to invade a country. Like, I don't know.
I
Like,
mean, it's all just it's excuses, right? It's just reasons. They just
right?
wanted to
Yeah. I mean,
destabilize. So
build the old Soviet Union is what they're doing. That's kind
yeah,
of the gist at this point. Russia, Putin living out his old communist, you know, daydreams, basically.
yeah. Well, hopefully it fails. Doesn't look good for him. At the end, hopefully someone just pops him in the back of the head and we're done with all this.
I don't know. He's got his mafia. He runs everything pretty well. So, and
Yeah,
now he's like
and
on that Lord Emperor shit where like no one comes into his throne room except
that's
unless
it,
he
right?
abides
Yeah,
by, and that's it. Like, so he's definitely on
absolutely.
that type of level now.
Yeah, his paranoia must be through the roof. Like he
Oh,
must
it,
be
it must be
so
mentally
scared.
sickening at this point for
Yeah.
him. I would assume.
I do enjoy seeing his body doubles getting rolled out all over Russia, and like people like bringing them together and like putting photos of them side by side, and you're like, oh, that doesn't look anything like him.
It's creepy too. It's like, where did you
Yeah,
find that motherfucker? Like, where did you find that? I
yeah,
know
and
like
like
most world leaders have body doubles, but it's like, how do you find that? I would love to know like the art behind that. Like, what agency do you use in your government to find somebody that looks just like you? Like,
I mean, in the West, I feel like it would be like prosthetic, right? You would just take a person and make them look the same, but then you can't be that close to that person, so that can't work. I don't know.
there's I forget what it's called, but I saw this documentary years ago. It was on YouTube, and it was about the whole idea of how there's so many people in the world, and I forget what the statistic is, but like for like you and me, there's like two or three other people that look just exactly like us in the world, or something like that. I don't know. And there's a term for what they could. It's like something twin. And there's apparently an
Okay.
app you can download to help you find that person,
Fuck that.
which is a little
I don't
weird.
want
I don't know if I'd want
to.
to
Yeah,
find the
yeah, I don't
person
want
that
to meet that
looks
guy.
exactly like me. That seems a little creepy, but
Yeah.
it does
No.
exist. So, but like I said, I would love to be a fly on the wall to see the process of like, okay, like where do you, is there another Lukashenko walking around, like another Uncle Luigi? Because like, how did you find somebody as fat and as round as him, like with the same mustache and everything? Like, I don't know. Seems like a fascinating article to write. Like, how do you find the
Just
other fucking backups?
ta take out an article in a newspaper. Putin lookalike competition. Winner gets 100 grand.
Craigslist ad. I'm looking for someone that looks exactly like me.
Oh dear. Yeah. I don't know about Lukashenko though. I don't. I can't imagine he's getting copied too easily. Like that
He
man
would just be
is.
hard to copy because of his ridiculous personality. Like Putin has that sternness where he doesn't say a whole lot, so it'd probably be
Yeah,
easier for a double. But Lukashenko's just got like this. I
ridiculous
don't want to
aura.
say it's charisma because it's not charisma, but it's like goofy old uncle thing. That's why I call him Uncle Luigi, because it's like he's your drunk uncle at like those family gatherings, just saying some crazy shit in the background. You're like, oh yeah, there goes Uncle Luigi again. He's had one too
Yeah,
many, you know.
he says some outrageous shit. Fuck it. What was it? Oh, when they were all protesting against the like corrupt the elections they had that were just like cooked. Um, and he just comes out and instead of denying it, he's just like, "Yeah, you owe this country to me. I should be in charge until I die." And the whole country's like, "What?"
And
And
he's
he just
honest.
beats
He's
them.
dead serious when he says it
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. He's
He doesn't care. Like that's why I find him kind
yeah,
of funny. I'm like, I mean, at least the dude's honest. Like as ridiculous as it is, like you can kind
yeah,
of take his word for what he says.
yeah. That's it. Like, fucking idiot.
I mean, there's also the one line he said years ago where he's like, where he like openly admits he's a dictator. He's like, yeah, I'm a dictator. At least I'm not gay. Like that's what he said in a sentence. Like dead serious. He's like, yeah, I'll admit I'm a dictator. At least I'm not gay though. It's like what? Like
I don't know, man. That's
okay, sure, whatever. What the hell does that got to do with anything? But okay, man.
yeah. Got a bunch of gay mates. They seem fun. Um, you, on the other hand, seem like a bit of a dickhead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't worry about me being a dictator of your country. But the best thing you got to worry about, I'm not gay, so we're all good.
Yeah,
This country will be in good hands.
yeah. Isn't he trying to groom his son to take over as well?
I don't know. He said in a statement like a couple months ago about how the Belarusian people have to get used to him not being their leader sooner or later.
Yeah, I
That
don't
to
think so
me
much get
is
used to it or get excited.
uh, it could have been both. I know he used the word get used
No,
to,
no,
so
he did say that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they should
but
get excited for him fucking off.
I think that was him preparing them for the integration into Russia because it was like a year and a half ago, I want to say, him and Putin signed a bill that by like 2030 or something, Belarus is going to be like more or less like fully integrated back into Russia. So won't
Yeah,
really even be a country anymore. It'll be just like another oblast, more or less. And I think that's what he's kind of saying it for, because like what else would he be saying it for? Like obviously there's going to be another ruler, but my opinion on it is it's not going to be the ruler of an independent country anymore. It'll be
yeah,
a ruler from Russia. You know what I mean? Moscow
yeah,
again.
yeah. I remember reading a while ago how he tried to do this years ago, like 20 years ago or something. I don't remember the date, but it seemed like he tried to do it so he could take over Russia, and then Putin just kind of fucked him over. I I don't remember the details though. It's like this essentially what they have now. This isn't the first time that they've tried to do it.
If it was that long ago, it wouldn't surprise me because Russia was in such a
Yeah,
destabilized state right after the
I
fall
think
of the Soviet Union. So like that I could see because it was like, oh, like it was really anybody's. It was a free for
yeah,
all when all
anybody's
that
game.
happened. So yeah, like I could see him like, oh, we could get a little bit bigger and maybe expand our territory a little more and show our,
Just a little.
our just a little.
Just a
But
cheeky little eastern flank.
yeah, just a tad, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's a character, man. I won't lie. I do find him entertaining every time I see him. I mean, it's just something about him. I'm just like, I don't like you, but you are funny to me. I just that's all I can say. Like you are a funny guy.
Objectively funny. Like
Yeah.
just like yeah. So long as yeah. We don't have to live under his rule, so you can just kind of
Thank God. Thank God.
yeah.
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 You want to talk about incompetence?
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem
Completely
wise.
incompetent.
Didn't he say what was it? What was his thing for COVID? It was like vodka and tractors will keep you safe. Something fucking weird like that.
Oh, yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean, that was also Russia was kind of doing things where they were saying it wasn't real at the beginning either, and then
Yeah.
obviously became real, and then they were like, "Oh fuck, we got to stop this." It's like
oh shit.
we don't have the medical infrastructure to cope with all of these sick people.
yeah.
Because I remember they
Yeah.
were showing like people out in the east and stuff, like going to these effing hospitals that looked like they hadn't been upgraded since like the 1970s, and you're like, oh god, yeah, you guys are fucked if you like this shit really hits hard there. Like you don't have the medical infrastructure, let alone the roads or the transportation to get people from facilities and stuff if they are sick. Like old
Yeah.
grandma out in the middle of the village is going to have to crawl through however many kilometers of mud roads before she even gets to the first town that's got a bus stop, like, and then get her to the hospital. Like, yeah, I don't know if she's going to make it.
Yeah. I think COVID's probably the least of our worries at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, they worry about a lot of other things, how much wood they're going to have to burn in their fireplace by the end of the night. Like,
Yeah. Just get killed by a wolf on your way. Like, oh, cool.
yeah, and bear maul you or something, a bandit might rob you. I don't know. It's still kind of like it was in the 1920s there in many places.
It would be so interesting to visit. Like, I'd love to. Pre COVID, I was supposed to do an event called the Mongol Rally, where you drive. So you drive from Prague to Lake Baikal in, comically not in Mongolia, in like far eastern Russia.
Hmm.
Um, and like we'd paid for it. We were starting to look for a car to go, and then COVID happened, and absolutely it's gone. And then the war happened, right? But no, it would have been an adventure, that's for sure.
I think that's the lake that's got the only inland seal species or something like that. I
Huh?
think if I'm remembering right. Yeah, it's like
It
the only
looks
like
big.
I think it might be. I know Russia has some lake. I think it is Baikal.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
it's
biggest
almost like
lake. It's quite big.
it's almost like a sea. I mean, how big
Yeah,
it is. And I think they have a seal species there that's been completely like landlocked for I don't know hundreds of years. I don't know. So I think the only like landlocked seal species in the world or something is only unique to there.
that's quite cool.
One of the few animal facts I know about those places.
That is a random animal fact to know.
I don't know. When you said that, I was like, oh, I think that's the one with the seals
that's
and
that's the first thing
radiation.
that popped into your mind.
Yeah, that and
Seals.
the radiation around the place too. Because I'm pretty sure they used to do a lot of nuclear testing and weapons testing out there as well.
I mean, fucking why not? There's probably not
Well, it's
much
the
else
middle of
going on.
nowhere. So because I think even still like out where Vladivostok is, like Kamchanka, I think is how you pronounced it. Like they did a
Yeah,
lot of weapons testing out there, and like all the reindeer and stuff out there still has like high rates of radioactivity in them. So like all the hunters that like eat them and stuff are like partially eating like radioactive meat and stuff. But it's just like part of their diet now for decades. That's kind of just
I
they do
mean,
have a higher
maybe
rate of cancer. I know that.
I was about to say maybe a bit of microdosing nuclear
Yeah, I don't know
waste
if it's
doesn't kill you, but no, it probably does.
yeah, no, it's not good for you either way.
Yeah,
You
turns
can't
out no.
yeah, microdosing ain't gonna save you there.
Yeah,
It's not like
surprisingly.
it's like mercury. I don't think as much as a little bit you take over decades, you're gonna survive from it.
You still fucking die.
Yeah, that's
It's
what happened to the Chinese emperor, and it didn't work out for him. So I don't think it's gonna work out for you if you do it with radioactivity.
fair,
So how's
fair.
been all the waves with all the protesting and the stuff in the UK right now with all the restrictions online and stuff going for you?
I mean, it's like you don't get involved, right? I'm not
Right.
from here, so like I don't. It doesn't bother me. I don't care about their politics.
Well, that's good.
Um, pretty. I don't know. You hear people talk about it, and like I've driven past a few where you can see lots of riot cops, but like I've been in places like that before, so it's fine.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. There's a lot of crime. Like when I first moved here, I moved into one of the. I think it's like the second highest borough, like area of the city for crime. It's a place called Whitechapel, famous
Hmm.
for Jack the Ripper. Um, but
Oh, okay.
it's
Yep.
very rough. Yeah, and like no one ever bothered me. I mean, I reasonably large dude, so it's fine. Um, but it's pretty like noticeably unsafe. Like there was like street gangs sitting outside dealing drugs, and like there is a reasonable level of crime. Um, saying that I have run past two dead bodies since moving here, so that's I don't run
Nice.
that often as well. So like statistically, not good. Um, it's it's a bit random. Yeah, one time I was with my girlfriend as well. We were like running up a canal, um, and we turned around after like probably about 20 minutes of running
Hmm.
past this point. And when we came back, there was some cops pulling a body out of the canal. It had like floated up while we were past. So that was pretty crazy. Kind of put things into perspective. Someone had just got murdered there the night before. Um, but no, like I don't like the whole talking shit online thing.
Hmm.
The whole talking shit online thing. Like I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty outrageous, but hasn't affected me. So
Oh, that's good.
yeah, does make you think. Like I don't know. I post like videos of politicians saying things quite often.
Hmm.
Um, it makes you think like, is someone going to get, is like the Met Police going to come around because I've posted a video of this like politician talking?
I
But
was gonna say that's how it kind of works now, right? In a way, with the
nah,
depending upon how you say things.
I think it was like they were going against people who were like saying quite like racist or like inflammatory things online. Not so much like I don't think anyone's been accosted by the police for like quoting a politician.
Okay.
Um, though there is currently a like low level politician in court for a video he was in where he told people to slit people's throats. So that's good.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, no calling for pitchforks and whatever
yeah,
else.
yeah, like and trying to incite violence and stuff like that. Um, like because that's some of the stuff has always been a crime, right? You can't go online and use hate speech or like call for the murder of a certain people or like stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
always been a crime.
Right. Like
So
I can't say, "Oh, I'm mad at my work right now. Fuck them. I'm gonna go blow it up now
yeah,
tomorrow." Like
like that's yeah,
that's a that's a threat. You can't do
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So like I just think like they kind of took they didn't change any laws. They just took action using laws that were already available
Hmm.
against people. Like I can see why people got upset, but I mean, don't go online and say you want to hurt or have a certain group of people killed. It seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we're both the same age, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's like internet 101. Like, you don't go type in things on Google search that'll get you in trouble. Then you don't publicly say things on things that'll get you in trouble. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
and now it's like, I think with the younger generation, since they've grown up with the internet and all these apps and stuff, like they think there's still an anonymity there where it isn't, because
yeah,
they're being anonymous on the internet wasn't like it was 15, 20 years ago.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
anonymity on the internet is like almost non-existent in many forms now. Like, people
Yeah,
will find anything about you if they want to, you know.
yeah, big time. It's also like freedom. What is it? Freedom of speech is not freedom from repercussion or consequence.
Right.
Like
Mhm.
you can say it, yeah, you still have to deal with the consequences of what you've said. Like,
Yeah, like if I walk into a bar and say I'm gonna kick the next guy's ass who looks at me, don't
yeah,
expect to all of a sudden be like, no one's gonna bother you now. Like, no, someone's probably gonna come and kick your ass now. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you
yeah,
asked for it. Like, that's the
yeah,
freedom
like,
of speech. Like, you say something, there are consequences to what you say.
yeah, absolutely. Um, but like everything, it gets blown up online. So I mean, like the way the government kind of phrased it also looked pretty bad. It sounded bad in like sound bites. So I can see why it kind of got traction.
And
Um,
then with the whole sphere of everything going on, it seems like, oh, now you're doing this when, like you were saying, this is kind of stuff that's been around. Just now they're kind of taking it into the forefront to use it because it's like, well, now we have an actual major cause going on that all this is applied to. Where prior to this,
yeah,
you know,
there is a bit of like, I don't know, I might cut this bit out. There is a bit of like weirdly inequitable like responses to protests in London for sure. Like if certain groups protest, the police will do certain things. And if other groups protest, the police will do certain things. Like that is
mm-hmm,
definitely a thing. Like,
mm-hmm,
and it probably comes down to like if the police react in a certain way to one group, there probably won't be a like any repercussion. But if they act in a certain way to another group, that could just make the problem way bigger. So they're
mm-hmm.
just dealing with it the best way they can. But when you look at it objectively, it can look pretty awkward. Um,
I mean, I think what you guys are going through is similar to what the U.S. went through, like during COVID with all the BLM stuff. It's different reasons, but same scenarios as far as
yeah,
like the racial issues, the immigration, you know, the people that are already here as citizens and blase blase. And pardon me, it was the same thing as that, as you said, like depending upon what side you were on during those moments and at what rallies, the police would respond in different manners, you know. But
yeah,
like you said, objectively looking at it, it looks a bit funny when one side is getting
shot
however you
with
want to
like
thrashed
less
or
than lethal. Yeah,
yeah, and then the other side is like allowed to kind of walk around and do as they please, but
yeah.
it goes both ways as well. It's not like, you know, I don't
No,
know.
and the UK police, I think, are pretty proactive in like following up protests. So like while at whenever they're happening, it may look like nothing happens. I think there's like riots. I think it might be almost 10 years ago now. And they spent a year and a half going through CCTV footage and arresting people for what they did. Like
Oh, yeah.
they were still knocking on doors 18 months later for crimes. So like they they will take their time and find them, just maybe not in the moment.
Oh yeah, I just saw the other day, maybe like a week or so ago. one of the guys that was in the Capitol on January 6th, he just got sentenced to like 5 years or something.
Was it like the
So there's
first guy? Was that one?
no, this was it was just some, like you said,
Oh,
just
just some
someone
random
they
guy.
got on CCTV that they were able to identify in the building. They're like, oh, bagged them, got them. Like there's another one, you know.
How people thought there was be no repercussions from that is
Oh, it's
crazy.
beyond me. I mean,
Like it just
I
seems.
mean, it was funny listening to the debate the other night when Trump was talking about it at one point because I mean, like I said, when it comes to the American political system, for me, I could give a piss about either side. I think they both suck. But
Yeah,
at one moment, he was talking about the police, and you know, the Democrats are going to defund the police, so chaos is going to break loose. And then when they brought up the January 6th thing, he was like, nobody should have died, and that one officer who killed that girl, he was out of control. He should have never been in. And I'm like, wait a minute.
yeah,
The
you can't
guy's
have it both
defending
ways,
a
bro.
government building under siege from the people that you. If you want to argue that he didn't send them in their shirt, they were all there because of him. Like, there's no
Yeah,
argument about that. And he's saying that guy was out of control. He shouldn't be. Now I'm like, now you sound like the exact same people that want to defund the like. What? Make up your mind, dude. You can't have your pie and eat it too. Like,
that's
because to
not
me,
politics,
that guy had all the justifiable reasons for shooting that woman who was trying to literally crawl through a barricaded door. Like the door's barricaded. There's multiple dudes on the other side pointing guns at you to say, "Get the fuck out." What,
yeah.
what do you What do you
What do you
think's
think's
gonna
gonna
happen?
happen?
You know, it's
Yeah, yeah,
like you getting pulled over by a cop and not listening to his orders, and the next thing you know, he's ripping you out of your like. What do you think's going to happen?
yeah, yeah. Big time.
There's rules and regulations for a reason, and yeah, it
Yeah,
sucks when you fall into those, and maybe your ideology and opinion don't. But it's like war. Like, oh, I'm gonna surrender, but I'm gonna kill the guys that I'm surrendering to. No, if you do that, they're probably gonna shoot you. Like,
yeah. That's just how it happens. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just how it happens. Like you're gonna have to surrender to them and get captured if you want. You're not gonna be able to Rambo yourself out of this one. You know, like
Yeah. I mean, like the logic of like that lady trying to climb through that door to me is insane. Like you are
what were you gonna do
climbing.
if you got in there?
Yeah, die. Well, she did, but
Run around the Senate where they all sit in their seats and jump up and down like
yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
at least when people were breaking into McDonald's or raiding an Apple store, at least they were running out with the merchandise. Like there was some
Yeah,
at least benefit for it. Not saying I condone that or
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with it, but
They're
it's
at
like
least up.
right,
Yeah,
like you're already in the building. Now you're just trying to get into another room in the building. Like what are we
yeah,
gaining from this here? Like you're not gonna it's not gonna be Seattle where you're gonna all of a sudden like take control of the capital and like it's gonna become like a
yeah,
neutral zone.
yeah.
Like
They are gonna take that building back.
yeah, they're gonna send in the National Guard and whatever else, man. They'll Scud missile that bitch if they have to get you out of there. You know?
My favorite example of this recently is this Chase Bank thing. Like the Chase Bank glitch where like
Oh, for the
two
fake
million
money, I
people
heard.
thought they could just write checks to themselves and withdraw the cash, no questions asked. Like apparently there's Chase have 2 million or 200,000, a large amount of people they're about to take to court for fraud.
It
It's like what?
Out of anything too, a financial system, you're trying to like slither around and think you're not going to get caught. Like
No,
next to like an
you.
intelligence agency, that's probably the last type of company you're going to be able to try and get away with anything. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when you've given them your name, you're on camera. Like
Yeah,
they have everything you need. They have all of your information. You have an account with them.
yeah.
Like, it's
Live. They have your address. They know what your dog's name is, who you're
yeah.
married to, your grandma, your auntie, your uncle, your mother's maiden name, like your social security number. Like,
You don't even need to do an investigation.
no.
You have everything. It's just like okay,
And then you
cool.
have all their finances too, which you could just be like, block. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cheers, mate.
like you can't
Thanks
get
for
your money
that.
right now. It's locked.
Yeah, yeah. It's mine now. Thank you. And
There
remember all that
was
money
a
you took?
there was a glitch so many years ago I heard, but it was with a specific ATM. I don't remember what bank it was, but somebody went to the ATM and you could withdraw cash from it, but it wouldn't withdraw from your account.
Yeah,
So I think like most ATMs, I think like the max you can take out at a time is like 2 grand or something. I don't know. It's something like that.
yeah.
So
There's
like
another.
one idiot found out about it, told another friend. Next thing you know, there was a line of people outside this ATM just withdrawing as much money as they could because it wasn't being funneled out of their bank. But they didn't realize that you still had to put your ATM card.
Yeah.
So the bank would see the access to whatever card withdrew the money out of the ATM, even though it wasn't coming out of their account. So it was like, they're like, oh, yeah, it's free money. It's like, no, you
No,
just
bro.
told them that you withdrew money from that ATM. So they're going to figure out that it was you. And then they're
Yeah.
going to just deduct it from your account
they just they
afterwards.
have they have a number and they have your information. And they
They're
just
right
go
there.
ding. Just put that together.
You
And
have to
now
put
you
your
owe them
card
all
in.
that money.
Yeah, and they all got caught. All of them. I was like 50, 60,
Crazy.
50, 60 people. Like I said, I remember them showed on the news. It was like a line of people outside this ATM, and it was like watching crackheads like
Yeah.
fucking scrabble for crack on the ground. It was like, wow, like the news is filming you. You don't think you're gonna
Yeah. Bro, you're on camera.
you're right
Like you're
there.
committing a yeah. I think like the Chase one was it's basically the same concept, right? They were writing checks and they would give them the cash before deducting the money from their account. Um so like I don't understand and someone put it on TikTok, it went viral. And so like heaps of people did it. And there was like lines down the round the block of like people waiting to withdraw money from Chase Bank. Not You're not just like taking that amount of money from a bank and they're going to be like, it's fine.
And
Like,
that's a felony in the United States doing that.
yeah, it's check
Writing
fraud,
false.
right?
Yeah, that's a felony. You don't want that. You don't want a financial felony on your account. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's not good.
it's not going to be good for your future finances.
No, for anything. And in jobs too, like getting any kind of job, they're gonna look at you because like that's like steal. It's stealing. So
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
go
it's
into
stealing.
any
It's just a
workplace now, they're like, oh, you basically have been convicted of stealing, burglary, whatever you want to say. And
yeah,
then on top of it, it's financial, so it's like a double whammy. You know, it's not like
yeah.
you know
You
I got
didn't
pulled
just
over when I was 17, drunk driving or something. Like, oh, okay, that's forgivable. Like, oh no, you're in your 30s and you thought you could scam the banking system. Like, yeah, that's not a good idea. I don't know about that.
it also probably shows some level of intellect, like to not look at that situation and go, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you want to steal money nowadays like that, you got to be real clever. Like it's like robbing banks. Like you can't rob a bank anymore. It's like
No, because
almost
they don't
impossible now.
have the money.
Well,
Like,
well, that and like all the security systems and stuff now they have
yeah,
nowadays. It wasn't like it was like 30, 40 years ago. You walk in, there's like no cameras. There's maybe a fat guy in the corner as a security guard,
yeah,
you know, and the cops are going to be here in 5 minutes because even their system isn't even the way it is now. It's like, it just isn't like that anymore, you know?
yeah. And also like risk versus reward, right? Like how much money are you realistically? Because how much cash is realistically going to be in their bank? Even if
Unless
you
you go
got,
into the vault, which
yeah,
90% of robberies never even get that far. They just go through the cashiers.
yeah,
I don't know, maybe 20, 30 grand. But that's
is it?
like in nowadays money, that's not a whole lot for the
Yeah,
risk.
for the risk and like the punishment is going to be bad.
Oh, 10, 15, 20 years in jail at least.
Yeah,
Especially especially if you're armed with a weapon, you know,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like
That's
whole other multiple
because then it's
amounts of
like
crime.
armed robbery, right?
Yeah, because there's robbery, then there's armed robbery, and then depending upon if you threatened people or said you were going to shoot someone or did discharge your firearm, and I mean you can stack up the rap sheet real quick. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Just start inventing charges for them.
But yeah,
um,
you can't get away with that stuff anymore. It doesn't work unless you're like into Bitcoin or something. That's where the financial fraud is now.
just just other forms of financial crime, or you
Yeah.
actually work for a bank, and in which case, financial crime's fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then you can get away with it because you're the one running the whole scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. Might end it there, mate. I'm starting to get a bit tired and coming up to an
Uh,
hour.
I guess one quick question for you is as far as your view on the OSIN community and news community and stuff, what's your overall like gist on it at this point, being in it for as long as you've been now?
Um, there's a lot of noise. Like, it's just a lot of things going on, and like getting to good information is
Mm-hmm.
a challenge. Like, and then there's just a lot of things to wade through. As we were talking about on Telegram, right? You had
Mm-hmm.
50,000 messages to clear. Like, there's just so much information. And like, coming from Intel, this is something that has been like discussed there as like information overload. So like, there's like the scarcity of information, and then information overload is just as bad because you can't find the golden nugget of information you need to make a good assessment as easy, because there's just so much shit you have to look through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in like my day job, there's like software and tools that can be used to like fine tune that and like dig faster through much vaster quantities of information.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's probably my one takeaway. But it makes sense. It's good, and there's lots of good stuff, and there's lots of people doing like awesome work. It's just hard to do it this way. Like, it's very like manual, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. There's a lot of time trawling through a Telegram account, right? Where
It's
like
kind of like almost like the old fashioned way of doing things, you know? It's like you kind of have to go out and
look for it.
like talk to people, grab the newspapers, look through the magazine, turn on the news, and like like before like
Yeah,
all the internet thing, it's like, and like you said, you're like sifting through it all and trying to find like, okay, what is this? Okay, this person gave this little bit of context. Now I got to go find where this is, what date this was on, where they were. It's like, and it's just trying to find like you said, piecing all these things together for something you're searching for. Yeah, it becomes very very time consuming. Just like you
yeah.
said, sift through it all.
It's so much. There's just so much information all the time. Um, but that's my main takeaway. It's good. It's interesting. It's fun. Um, but no, it's beneficial. It definitely helps. Like, especially like looking at it from a different aspect than like news reporting. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. Some people seem to find value in it, providing that a little bit of what it might mean, what it could mean.
Hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, that's
I
what
would definitely use the same word. Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
I.
A lot
I
of
mean, that's what
characters.
keeps us around. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting folks cutting about too.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, a lot of characters, more than I would have ever expected.
Yeah, I suppose it's that like deplorable stuff, right? That brings interesting
Yeah,
people.
you get to see everybody in their finest form.
Yeah,
Yeah. You're like, yeah, that part. Yeah,
his finest. Yes, that's the word I'd use.
can be a
Anyway,
object. Yeah.
thank you very much, mate. It was nice chatting with you.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
See you.